Hello and welcome. You're watching UTV Live at 6.
Good evening. These are the headlines.
And the infected blood inquiry enters its final stages, with one victim calling for prosecutions and for an apology from the Prime Minister. A Northern Ireland victim of the biggest ever treatment disaster in the NHS is calling for prosecutions and an apology from the Prime Minister. Paul Kirkpatrick contracted hepatitis C after he was treated with contaminated blood in the 1980s.
He was speaking as the infected blood inquiry began its final stages in London today. Sarah Clark reports.
Desmond and Paul Kirkpatrick, two boys born in Belfast with haemophilia. They suffered uncontrollable bleeds. Products used to treat the brothers were contaminated. In a UTV up-close documentary, Paul described discovering he'd been treated with HIV-infected blood. That happened in the 80s. But it wasn't until 2019, when the infected blood inquiry came to Northern Ireland, that Paul found out.
The consultant who was treating me at the time said in her witness statement, in reply to my witness statement, that I was given AIDS contaminated blood and that they were monitoring me. But the AIDS, my body may have rejected it or something. And that was the first I've heard of that. Shock, absolute shock.
But Paul didn't totally escape. He contracted hepatitis C, also a life-threatening illness, and his older brother Desmond passed away. It's believed as many as 3,000 victims have died across the UK. What happened has been examined at the infected blood inquiry, the biggest ever carried out in the UK. After nearly 4 years, it's entered its closing stages. Paul's attending, searching for answers and accountability right to the end.
There's a lot of anger and resentment, and still a lot of unanswered questions from the people who maybe could have provided answers and weren't able to at the inquiry.
Haemophiliacs were not the only ones exposed to contaminated blood products. Other victims were infected through blood transfusions. In the inquiry's closing submissions, apologies from health trusts are expected. But Northern Ireland's Department of Health won't make a submission. That's because Stormont has collapsed.
Disgusted. I think it's a cop-out. It is a reflection on our government. Whenever Robin Swan was in place, and there was excellent work undertaken by him and his department, not to respond or put in submissions, in my mind, is unnecessary. This is not a political topic. There's no reason why the Department of Health could not submit what they have learnt and what they would like to go forward with in the future.
The beginning of the end for the inquiry. Some payments may have been made, but they will never fully compensate those affected. Their fight for justice goes on. Sarah Clark, UTV Live.